Mike, you're not on mute if you need to talk.
Good evening, welcome to the Goffstown Sewer Commission's regularly scheduled meeting for January 12th, 2021. Before we start, I have a right-to-know document I'm supposed to read. As the Chair of the Sewer Commission, due to COVID-19 outbreak and in accordance with the Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, the Board is authorized to meet electronically. We have provided public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. The Sewer Commission is utilizing a telephone conference line for this electronic meeting. The public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following telephone number, 603-766-5646, using the participant code 785645 followed by the pound sign. The town previously gave notice to the public how to access this meeting using the available telephone number with the posted agenda. If anybody has a problem with telephone access, please call 603-660-5000. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at a later time. Please note that all votes are taken during this meeting will be done by roll call vote. Before I take the attendance here to start, I'm letting everyone know at the meeting tonight that everyone should wear their mask during the course of the meeting. If you're recognized to speak, you're welcome to take your mask off if you feel more comfortable speaking or if you think it'd be more clear. But I think in respect for each other, we should all have our masks on. Okay, we'll start our meeting with a roll call attendance, starting with Lynn.
Lynn Pooler, Sewer Secretary.
Corey Wyke, DPW.
David Pierce, Commissioner.
Tim Redmond, Commissioner.
Rob Trapez, Commissioner.
Mike Urgo, DPW.
Chad Bowen, Select Board Rep.
Mike Urgo on the, Mike Trank on the phone. Could you please identify yourself?
Yes, Michael Trank with Hoyle Tanner and Associates.
Thank you, Mike. All right, the first order of business is public comment. So I will open the meeting for public comment. If someone tries to call in and they can't get in for any problems, please use the alternate numbers. We will hold public comment on for the balance of our meeting, and we will close public comment at the end of our meeting in case there's troubles with the phones. So we'll give a 30-second hold here for anyone to call in or speak on public comment.
Nobody has called in.
Okay. So we'll hold the public comment open until the end of the meeting, and we'll close public comment at the end of the meeting. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from our November 10th, 2020 meeting. That was our last actually regularly scheduled meeting, which was 2 months ago. Anybody have any corrections or changes to the meeting, to the minutes as they're presented?
No corrections.
I'll second your motion, Rob, to approve the minutes.
Is that what you did, Rob?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Motion by Rob to approve, seconded by Dave. Roll call vote. Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Tim? Okay, we have new business tonight. We have 3 folks that are coming before us tonight. We'll start with the second one on the list, which is Eric Fletcher, map 34, lot 88. Eric, you come on up. Please identify yourself for the record.
Richard Eric Fletcher.
Thank you.
So it has been brought to my attention that I need to address where the sewer line is going to come into the new 2 units I'm adding to the building right behind the town hall here. I wasn't really not sure yet. I'm looking at either going possibly down to Depot and punching in down there, or looking at possibly having to do a pump chamber system up into my existing sewer line that comes in from Church Street. So I haven't quite figured out. I'd like to get the approvals first to know that I can put the 2 units in this building, and then I'm gonna proceed at that point with which direction I'm gonna go as to tie the sewer into that building.
Thank you. Mike, Yurgo, could you please let us know what the status is of sewer lines on that, on that area? Availability.
The sewer line availability on Church Street is fine. If he puts down a sewer line to Depot Street, if you have a subdivider, you wanna do something on a lot, you won't be able to, because you'll have to have an easement. And normally, besides that, your property's frontage is on Church Street, and by the sewer use ordinance, you have to come out in front of your property.
Okay,
Okay?
yeah.
Couple ways you could probably do it. You have to probably end up doing a pump station outside in the ground.
If that's the case, and there's a possibility, I've been thinking creative, if I actually did the bathrooms on the second floor, where the toilets were on the second floor, I think I'd have the height with the sinks downstairs to actually be able to drain into the drain without a pump chamber system.
If it's,
So-
if it's under a parking lot, you're supposed to have 6 feet of cover.
So it wouldn't be under the parking lot, it would now come to, if I went between the two buildings, and now it might mean making an addition to connect the two buildings, so I can do that, either that, or I'm gonna have to, I don't know how far into the ground I need to be before the pipe's gonna freeze, but I don't have a lot of pitch as it is.
Yeah, you gotta have over the landscape or grass area, you gotta have a minimum of 4 feet. And on the pavement, you gotta have 6.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to do a pump chamber system then.
So what you end up doing is you end up connecting to Church Street with a saddle, 6-inch gravity saw to your property line with a clean out, then you can hook your 2-inch force main into that clean out.
So can I tap into the existing line that comes to Church Street that currently feeds the Roundhouse building now?
Depends what size it is. If
I
it's a
believe
four-
it's 6-inch.
Yeah. I mean, it's a possibility.
That way I don't have to tap into the road. That would be ultimate, but, there's no way, where does the sewer line go from, like down towards behind the town hall? Is there anything that comes,
Goes under this building.
that goes under this building? So it must go through Lampson's parking lot there.
Yeah, it goes through the parking lot to Church Street.
I mean,
and it
is there
goes
any
down to
chance
there.
I could get into that line?
It's deep.
It's under the footing
And
over
it's
here on the
under this
corner of the building.
It's under this building. And since they built up that parking lot, you had another 10 feet.
Right?
It would actually be more difficult, Eric, to try to cut across all these parking lots.
You're really looking
and
at the
tie
pump
into a
chamber
line.
system is
And
gonna be
there's-
my only,
Plus, you gotta cross a stone culvert.
Yeah.
There's a stone culvert that goes from Depot all the way up to Church.
right?
And you're gonna go through that.
Don't.
Ain't gonna happen. So, Church Street's your option.
Okay.
According to the ordinance, from what I'm hearing Mike saying, is because it's a separate building, you're gonna have to have a separate sewer connection to the sewer line, unless you get a waiver from the Goffstown Sewer Commission.
Or unless I build a connector and make the two buildings now one building, which I
If-
didn't, well, yeah.
If it was a single building, you might be able to work, because it's a single building, with an existing sewer connection. But since they're
Right.
two separate buildings,
Well,
Mike, could you advise me on that?
he could put, if you try to go gravity, depends how deep the service lines in the other property for the roundhouse. If you can go gravity there and you maintain your depth, you can put a Y in, because it's one building behind the other.
Right. So, on the first floor of the Roundhouse, the toilet that I have in there right now is literally at that cement grade level. So if you go over to the other building, there's minimal to work with. That's why,
Yeah.
Besides the fact that between two buildings, you have to have cover.
well, and that's why if I did an addition, I did a 4-foot frost wall on both sides, I can run the line right through the middle, and that's my only way that I can do that.
Dave?
Mike, on both of his options, if the surge is pumped into the roundhouse, which then goes to the street, or the other condition is he runs a line all the way to Church Street, is there any difference in the connection, the accessibility fee?
Well, he's still gonna pay accessibility fee.
Is there any difference in the price of the fee?
No,
No, because he still's gonna pay his.
for two more units.
for 2 more
Yeah,
units.
okay, I just wanted.
But I think
I
you-
wanted to put that into record.
I think you misspoke. You cannot pump from the Taggart Building, which I'm gonna call it the old building, the Taggart
Yep,
Building.
yep, building
You can't
one.
pump to the roundhouse.
So where was
It
the,
would have
I'm
to-
confused, where was it being pumped to?
He could pump to the front of the roundhouse and install a Y in the line between the building and the street based on the approval from the Goffstown Sewer Commission.
That really, at this point, looks like it's gonna be the most feasible.
Because it's one
Option.
building behind the other building.
Exactly.
So you can do that. It's on the
Yeah.
same lot. Your frontage is on Church Street.
Right.
You'll need to bring some specific information in for review, Eric, because if you're gonna use a grinder and send all the product to the street, that's one set of plans. But if you're gonna use a standard septic tank with a pump chamber, then if you're only gonna send the gray water, then you still have to pump your septic tank to take the solids, depending upon what you decide to do.
You can't use a
Okay.
septic tank. He's gotta use a pump chamber.
I'm saying if he uses a septic tank and uses a grinder, he would send the solids and the liquids to the sewer.
You can't have a two compartment septic tank.
I'm asking you, could he have a septic tank to capture the solids and let the gray water leave the septic tank and go into a pump chamber and only pump the gray water to the sewer line?
No, they don't do that.
Who's they?
Well, it's not practical because you're gonna have solids in the tank, which is gonna corrode his tank and corrode the pump.
Well, he has to pump the pump
Because
is
it's gonna
gonna,
it's gonna ferment into sludge.
he's gonna pump his septic tank like everyone else pumps their
No,
septic
he's
tank.
gonna put a 500 gallon pump chamber in the ground. And he's gonna have a grinder pump.
He didn't say grinder, I said just an effluent pump to take the gray water only.
You can't just take gray water, well, you gotta take wastewater with it.
It's no different than a residential septic system that pumps
It is different.
to a bed. You have a two-tank system.
You can't, you
You
don't
approve
have
them
a,
all the time.
you can't have a septic tank and have another control chamber.
Two separate tanks, Mike, I'm talking about.
Thank you.
Why are you gonna have a septic tank?
To capture the solids rather than pay for a grinder. Just do the water only.
It's gonna be a grinder pump anyway, it's
All right.
all the same.
All right.
An impasse here.
So I guess you should suggest a grinder then.
So, I mean, my only other option is that what I'm doing with the other lot that I own, if I ended up keeping that, and I could put my line down through 14 Depot.
You'd have to grant yourself an easement as the landowner for any
Citizens
future.
Bank already has an easement through there with their line, so I'm just trying to familiarize
Is
myself.
that where Citizens Bank sewer goes to Depot Street?
There is a sewer easement through my property on 14 Depot that accesses to Depot Street for their sewer, yes.
You also got a service line under the drive-through, so I installed it.
So I would say, Eric, that you need to decide what you want to do, formulate a plan, and come back and tell us what you want to do.
Okay.
But there's no problem with hooking up to the sewer for your additional 2 units that I can see. There's capacity, Mike, to do that?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so it's not, you're not going to get denied permission from the sewer commission.
Perfect, and that was my point of view, is they were expecting me to have all these plans in place for the apartments I'm gonna build, and I'm trying to say to them, why am I gonna spend all this money on plans when not even approved yet? So, just, once I know that I can do the 2 units, then I'll have my architect design the units, but I don't wanna put the
Cart before the horse.
cart before the horse. Yeah, exactly.
So I think you should also investigate what through your legal point of view, is whether you're going to grant yourself an easement or what you're going to do, because
Well-
that's a,
Ordinance states that it goes through a frontage. Doesn't have frontage.
well, we'd have
It's
to.
2 lots.
He could ask for a waiver if he had to,
Why would I need a waiver?
because Mike just said, your Church Street property is frontage on Church Street, not on Depot Street. So in order to go to Depot Street, it's against the sewer ordinance.
I would have to join 14 Depot with 9 Church. They're connected. They're just, if they were one lot, I could get away with that.
Well, that's
If you
your-
did if you subdivide all, I mean,
Right,
and you made it a 1 lot,
yeah.
you have
That's
frontage
what
on
I'm
both
saying.
sides.
You'd have to do a lot consolidation, and that's
Right.
not, that doesn't make sense for you, I
No,
don't think.
no.
To me, it makes sense to put a pump chamber in 500
Absolutely.
gallon, and just run out, you're gonna run 100 feet of 2-inch force main to
Yeah.
clean out on your own property.
Yeah.
And it's all done.
Does he
Absolutely.
need permission from this commission to tie 2 separate buildings into one service, Mike?
No, because it's gonna have to apply for a permit for accessibility and the construction of these,
Right.
of the service.
So you can apply for permits to install a Y outside your present roundhouse,
Nice.
and you can pump from the Taggart building around the building and pump into that Y and discharge into the sewer.
Perfect.
But you still have accessibility fees for 2 apartments?
Yeah.
And how many apartments do you have in the roundhouse now, 1 or 2?
2.
And they're both permitted, Mike?
Yeah, they both, we got through that last fall.
Yeah.
So you'd have to do 2 accessibility fees plus your monthly charges, or by
A monthly charge of workers.
sewer use fees,
Perfect.
okay?
All right.
So we'd appreciate it if you just kind of keep us in the loop and let us know what your plans are before you go to planning, so they don't ask us questions later. I'd appreciate if we had our approval in place for what you want to do,
Okay.
so that when you go to a planning meeting,
Technically, you are given approval. Just, he's gotta go do a site plan for the planning board.
So my site plan has already been done. Now there's all these new changes that the planning board's asking me to do to.
so you're gonna have to show the pump chamber and the pump line on your
Well,
site
that's,
plan.
Right, you
and
will have to do
my
it.
philosophy is, why do I have to do that work if I don't know yet if you're gonna
Right.
give me the approvals to put these 2 units in? That's all so.
And that'll go to TRC then, and someone from sewer will review what you have stated you're gonna do and see if it conforms with what we approved tonight.
Okay,
It's a verbal approval, it doesn't need to be in writing.
perfect.
Nothing from my concern, is it?
I'm fine with it.
All right, Eric,
Very good.
good to go.
Thank you for your time.
Next applicant is James Currier from Mountain Base Brewery. Please come forward and identify yourself for the record, please.
James Currier, Mountain Base Brewery.
Where's
Just-
Mountain Base Brewery gonna be, Jim?
It's going to be in the, well, at this point, it looks like it's going to be in the Shaw's Mall.
Okay?
Haven't determined the unit yet at this point because I've only spoken with the landlords once, and of course, COVID-19 is still rampant, so I was looking more for information here.
Okay?
Before I go forward, I'm just trying to, I'm more at the fledgling type planning point.
If you're more comfortable, you can take that mask right off your ear if it's more comfortable for you, because
Sure.
it's only one person in the room with a mask off, it's all good.
I've been tested negative, so. Anyways, I was looking to get feedback or information from you on what I need to do going forward. I'd rather have knowledge of what I'm looking at before I start really planning and,
So Mike Yurgo is gonna be retiring soon, so you better get his information out of him before he leaves us here.
Okay.
But generally speaking, Mike will ask you some questions about your discharge, how much water you're gonna use,
Okay.
what's going on with it, and then he goes to a state table and makes a determination based on our state standards, which are in our sewer use ordinance tables.
okay,
So I would say you would start with Mike, and I don't think we should have a long conversation tonight, but I think if you could give him a brief overview of what you want to do, he can sort of give you a general idea of what direction you need to go, Jim.
have you been to any microbreweries or nanobreweries?
No.
No.
Yeah, 'cause there's none in town, so.
No,
Except
no.
for yours in Mountain Base.
Not there yet, except for my basement.
Oh, yeah.
So, I could have. Anyways, looking to either do a nano brewery or a brew pub. With what I'm calling a brew pub would be less the liquor. It would just be beer. I don't want to get into the dabbling into liquor. I just want to have a nice retirement job where it's not controlling me, I'm controlling it.
Yeah.
They're about, a nano brewery would use, at most 189,000 gallons of water. At most, a brew pub would use anywhere from about 236,000 gallons of water, and that's per year.
And,
And that's the wastewater is what I'm saying. It's about a 3-to-1 ratio. I'm hoping to reclaim some of that water. Most of the water that's used is to cool what we call wort. It's the beer after you boil it. You get to boil and then you have to cool it down. you do it with cold water. I'm hoping to reclaim it into another cold water tank, so just continue to use that because it never touches the product. It just is there for cooling purposes, counterflow chiller, heat exchanger, whatever you want to call it. So I'm hoping to reduce that. Things that will not be going in there are the grains, and that's the major solid that would be involved in that. That would not be going in there because it's going to be picked up by a local farmer. He'll use it for whatever they use it for, whether it's on their agriculture or
That's picked up by the microphone.
feed. Yeah. Oh, is that what it is? Yeah. I wasn't
Part-time job?
I wasn't quite sure because once you steep it in the, it's like tea. Once you steep it, it takes all the sugars out, so.
So you'll be discharging any product at all besides water?
Maybe a little bit, but the hops and, there'll be hops and yeast that would be discharged. And again, that depends on how busy we are. Also, caustic, our cleaning products.
Well, first of all, I'll send you, they call it industrial questionnaire.
Okay.
Industrial pre-treatment, because you'll have to you're pre-treating the water before discharge.
Yeah.
Beer discharges a higher BOD in total suspended solids. So you're going to end up getting probably an elaborate system to remove all that. With the amount of gallons you got, the accessibility fee is going to be quite high.
Okay.
And also, they have a pump system at Shaw's, and we would have to see what the capacity of the pumping system is for almost 200,000 gallons of flow.
Okay.
That would have to be determined, those three things. Plus, the number of sheetings you got, tables, it's all calculated flow from the New Hampshire Septic Design Standards. But
Mike, in terms of the accessibility fees, is there a category for breweries in
I'm gonna
the
step out.
state table?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, so then we're talking basically measurement of gallons and flow, some way, shape, or form, barrels
Yeah,
or,
it'd be like an engineering firm will give you his discharge on an industrial pre-treatment questionnaire.
Mhm.
Then you would have to add the number of tables to it and the number of seats to that. Because if it's
for the brew pub,
for the pub itself,
would be
Yep.
like a restaurant, basically.
so if it's, and there is a bar, I believe, in the state standards for septic design gallonage, I believe.
Mhm.
Not 100% certain, but there
Most-
may be.
Most of the brew pubs I've spoken to, basically, they discharge it just goes. They don't. they
Yeah,
haven't had to-
I
they haven't had
don't
to
know,
fill.
because I've never been, it'd be the first brewery I ever had, an industrial pre-treatment, so
Right.
I'd be relying to the city for a
Sure.
lot of their input, because they
In
got some.
Manchester?
Yeah, they got some. So I'd
Yeah,
be
there's a
relying
few.
on, huh?
There's a few,
James,
yes.
have you had any exploratory talks with our planning department yet?
I did, and I basically told them, I was set up for a meeting last week, but it was more, as I say, looking for
Yeah.
information for me instead of me
If
going there.
my memory serves me, I believe the planning department is
Bar and lounges.
sponsoring some definitions of
Yeah.
mini
that's-
breweries and brew pubs
Yes.
in the March election,
Yep,
new zoning regulations in the March election, and you should be aware of what those changes mean to you.
I did get them.
Okay.
Yep, I spoke to,
Whether they're to your advantage to work right now or wait.
no, as I say, I was going by those changes
Okay.
with what the definitions were.
So you know, we have Sarah just joined us, if anybody has any questions for Sarah from DPW.
Okay, thank you.
So with the accessibility fees, the accessibilities go to our property owner. So
Town-
how he gets the
Town
money.
engineer's on the line now.
So, how he does it.
Right.
So, and accessibility fee, believe it or not, is for every 450 gallons, it's $5,000.
Okay.
That's based on the property, right? So
That goes on the property.
there's gonna be less whatever the credit paid is.
Whatever we figured out that property has, like we did with Chiggy's in the barber shop, will determine what his fee's gonna be
Yeah.
and his gallonage.
In talking about the industrial pretreatment program and what goes into that questionnaire, the genesis behind that is processes like breweries generate high-strength waste.
Right.
And it costs the wastewater treatment plant in aeration dollars to treat those microbes that are exerting that biochemical oxygen demand. So one of the biggest offenders in breweries is what's called the trube, which is the dead yeast cells that ferment out. That tends to be, upwards of like 20,000 milligrams per liter. Just to give you an order of magnitude, when you're above 250, you're into a high-strength waste. So a lot of breweries deal with that separately because it can be relatively small volumes because it's concentrated in the bottom of a hopper. And then the other issue is how your cleaning practices are, what happens to your first flush from cleaning, and that can be really high strength. But overall, if you resist the urge of hosing everything down and diluting it, it makes treating it that much easier.
Okay.
So you'll be able to give Jim some specific information on costs and procedures and all that kind of stuff, so he'll be aware of
Yeah,
what
once
he's up
I
against?
send him the question, he'll fill out, he's got to put all those cleaning agents and the gallons and all that.
Perfect.
Then we'll figure out, how many seats you're gonna have, how many chairs and stuff like that. Then the questionnaire, we go to the city for their review, because all our waste gets treated by the city.
Right,
So they get to review it and make their comments.
okay.
Mike, is there any issue with capacity down at the Shaw's Plaza?
That's what we gotta say about the pump station. They have a pump station in the corner. That Shaw's Plaza, everything except, the old Pizza Hut gets pumped to the interceptor.
Okay.
But it's the pumping system, what was the capacity, what it was built for, well, it has enough room to take almost 200,000 gallons of water.
So that means that you're
Okay.
gonna have to deal with the landlord on that, because that's a private system, that's not our system.
Okay, Pizza Hut, where does that go?
Septic system
Does it really?
in the driveway.
Well,
They just worked on it last year.
Yeah,
that was sort of like grandfathered in?
It's too far away.
Okay.
Because Shaw's only hooked up after we had the interceptor built, we were able to run it. And it was just too far away. At the time, it's over 100 feet. They looked into it years ago, after we had the interceptor running.
Jim,
But
you
they didn't wanna-
were out of the room, but Mr. Courier's aware of the zoning changes coming up.
yeah.
So, just one point, I don't know if, you were talking in terms of gallons per year, 189,000 to 236,000 being a range. I'm sorry, that was a year.
A year.
Well, it's a year.
Yeah, so that drops down to like
Wow.
650
That's not
gallons per
bad.
day.
Oh, geez, I'm crawling.
Right,
That-
yeah, so he's not going broke before he brews a keg of beer. So, just,
I'm glad we got that number.
Gallons per day, holy.
one other group, I don't know who you've talked to in terms of brew pubs, but the folks up at The Alchemist in Stowe, Vermont,
Yeah,
they built a new facility. One of the things that they did, anecdotally, was they have very good housekeeping practices, and they were able to reduce the concentration of wastes that they had to deal with just through housekeeping. So, food for thought. It's a well-known place that you might want to consider
so
calling.
you're familiar with craft beer?
Cannot confirm or deny.
You look like you've never had a craft beer in your
No,
life.
never.
Apparently you had a lot
I
of
got a
samples.
couple sitting here.
You had a lot of samples, huh?
So, just for Jim's edification, do you see any reason, from a sewer commission's point of view, that he could not operate his business there? He would be able to move forward with his plans based on the pump station's information from the Shaw's Plaza?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
If that flows per day, then.
Sure, and as I say, just some of the other information, and you're
Yeah,
gonna send me that
okay.
form, that would be great.
Yeah, I got your email, because, I got this from when
Yeah.
you were supposed to come.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Boy, did
I got your
boy,
email.
did I get that one screwed up. I won't even go there,
Was it
but,
9 o'clock at night, you said?
yeah, I thought it was 8 o'clock or whatever, and, the only other question, does anybody know what's going on with the shaking crab?
From Economic Development Commission, I've been on that kind of on and off because I don't do Zoom meetings and that's all they do anymore, so. Last I knew, the note was that they were going to reopen.
Okay.
They were closed temporarily,
Yep.
but then the last I heard was they were going to reopen. I don't know if they have reopened or not, but they said they were planning on it.
It could happen any day now.
Oh, is that what
From
it
what
is?
from what we understand, we have a economic development council tomorrow night, and I'm sure that'll be a topic.
Well, now it will be since you have a question to ask.
Sure will be.
Yeah, you know, I say nothing's in stone yet. I've talked to the landlords down in, they're down in Fall River.
Hmm.
A little hard to understand them, but.
Oh, yeah, there's a mic.
Yeah, and then, I guess the restaurant's not gonna be opening back up. That's what I'm hearing,
Oh, really?
so.
Which one? What?
The,
Yeah, and they owe us a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, I thought somebody
a good
said they
reason
were
never to
opening back
finance
up in
again.
March. They-
oh, maybe then, yeah, I was hearing that there's a brother-in-law that didn't
Well,
wanna come
I
tonight-
don't know how many payments they made.
Well,
They're-
we'll talk about that at another
Yeah,
time,
well,
not right now.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
good.
it's going
Talk
back.
about it
Move
later.
right along. Move right along.
All right, thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Any other questions at this time, Jim?
No, as I say,
Yeah, I'll send you an email, I'll send that, and all you can do is fill it out, and you can email it back to me.
all right, perfect. That sounds great.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Did we have any other people on the line? Dave said the public
Yeah,
town
Sa-
engineer?
Sarah is on the line,
Okay,
and Mike Trank is on the line, and then Ed Monty just joined us as well.
all right, can you recognize him?
Ed,
Ed, are you there?
Good night.
All right, can we hear Ed?
This is Ed.
Okay, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me, please?
We can hear you.
Can you turn that phone around so the speaker faces us, please, Lynn?
I thought that's what that was for.
I thought so too.
Oh, they called the
All right, Ed, can you hear us speak to you from the table here?
Yes, I can, Tim.
Good, thank you.
I used the wrong.
All right, so Ed, you're on our agenda tonight, so could you please identify yourself for the record and let us know what you want to talk about?
My name is Ed Monty, representing Emily Investment, and working on a project at 134 Mass Road in Goffstown. The proposed project is to construct 30 residential townhouses.
Could you please sort of let the folks here know where the approximate location is, please, Ed?
Approximate location is off Tatro Drive, which is the Shell station, the self-service or self-storage location, heading toward Manchester, and it abuts the power lines that cross Mast Road.
Thank you.
Ed, hi, this is Dave Pierce. I believe that's also a parcel where there's a one-story home, and it has some storage units to the left and right. Same parcel, right?
That's correct, Dave.
Thank you.
All right, Ed, is there anything you need to let us know about what you're planning, or are you just looking for authorization to hook up to the line? What do you want us to do with you tonight?
Well, thank you for asking. I was directed by TRC to attend the meeting. I think it's premature. However, if there's any action that the board cares to take, I'm happy to discuss that. Again, this is a proposal for 30 townhouses. We're still in the beginning stage of this. We're a planning board meeting with a conceptual on Thursday evening, and then we'll be returning to the ZBA February. And if we receive approval for relief on the two items we're seeking, then we'll move forward with our plans and submit to the planning board.
Thank you, Ed. The reason why the sewer use ordinance states you need to come before the sewer commission first is to be sure that there's capacity in the current infrastructure in the vicinity of a proposed project. So that is trying to prevent anyone from doing a lot of planning and a lot of expense, and only to come to find out that the sewer line is a 4-inch line in front of their property and they can't hook up to it. So in your case, the interceptor is in front of that property. There are procedures that you have to follow to get into the interceptor or to a manhole, and I'm sure your engineers have made you aware of all that. If not, you'll have to talk to Mike Yurgo at DPW, and he can tell you what the procedures are to access the interceptor line.
Thank you. So I have had a conversation with Mike Yurgo several weeks ago. Some of you may recall back in 2007, we had an approval issued by Goffstown Planning Board for constructing, I believe it was a 27,000 square foot multi-use building at that location with connection to the sewer and to municipal water at that time. I'm sure things have changed in the past 15 years. However, I'm also sure that the engineers would be aware of the connections that, and where they need to take place.
So the main question that needs to be asked tonight, and I'll ask it on your behalf of Mike Yurgo. Mike, is there capacity for, did you say 30 units, Ed?
30 units.
Is there capacity for a 30-unit townhouse project to tie into the interceptor at that point?
Yeah, there's capacity in an interceptor.
All right, Ed, so you, at this time, you have the information from the sewer commission that there is capacity. You would be permitted to hook up to the sewer line with all the normal procedures, including your accessibility fees for every unit, as well as your monthly charges for your use for the line after the units are occupied.
Thank you.
Now, accessibility fees are not due in advance. They are due at the time of your closing. So it's not like you have to pay up front for accessibility fees, but they will be due prior to any certificate of occupancy being issued at that property.
Thank you. There was some discussion previously that the fee is per building, and we have multiple buildings, not per unit. Could you clarify that, please?
I'm going to let Mike speak to that. Usually it's per unit because it's based on occupancy, so I'll let Mike clarify that for you.
Yeah, it's based, the accessibility fees is based per unit. A sewer permit, when you apply for a sewer permit, they get a building permit. You're gonna get a sewer permit for each building. And in that sewer permit, it's gonna say how many units, and that be times the dollars for accessibility fees. So you're gonna get a permit for each building. So if you build one at a time, and you get a CO on the first one, you're on the third, the accessibility fees on the first one will be due prior to getting a CO.
Thank you for the clarification, Mike.
Yep, no problem.
And in terms of bedrooms, Ed, do you know what you're planning to, are they going to be 2 and 3 bedroom units, or where are you going with that number? Do you have a plan on that?
Currently, I believe they're all 2-bedroom units. However, I think there's a possibility they could be 3-bedroom units and still fit within the same footprint.
And does that change
I
it?
don't have that.
I'm sorry, Ed.
I don't have that concluded as of this meeting. That will be as we move forward, though.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to Mike Yurgo. Mike Yurgo, is there a difference in the price of an accessibility fee for the 2 or the 3 bedroom unit?
They're all the same. It's one unit is equal to $5,000.
So there's no differential on the accessibility fee for a 2 or a 3 bedroom unit, Ed.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions for us at this time?
No, I don't have any other questions at this time. I'm sure some will be generated as we move forward through the process, but I think it's adequate with what we have now for information.
Any other commissioners have anything to add to this conversation at this time?
Just thank you for taking the time to introduce the project to us. It's really helpful for us.
I just wanted to let them know about the $200 user fee per each unit once they're built.
Well, that's, you can, Ed, I'm going to let the secretary say something to you, Ed. Hold on, here's Lynn.
Hi, Ed, I just wanted to make sure you're aware of once the buildings are built, that each unit will have $400 a year, billed out twice a year, $200 user fee on top of the accessibility fee. That's a one-time fee.
Well, thank you, Lynn. I was aware of that, but thank you for reiterating it.
You're
It's
welcome.
always good to have additional information.
What we're trying to do, Ed, is some other applicants have come before the planning board and come here, and no one ever told them about the use fees. They thought that the only thing they had to pay was an accessibility fee. So we're trying to be upfront with all the applicants so they know exactly what their costs will be if in fact they do hook up to the sewer line. And once again, Ed, thanks for calling in. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, everybody, and I appreciate you having me at the meeting on such short notice.
Very good. Good night, Ed.
Okay, good night. Good night.
Okay, so that takes care of our 3 items of new business.
So Sarah, I think if you want to hang up, I think we're all set. Or you can hang out if you want.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, so under old business, we have Elm Street Pump Station. Is that from Mike or Corey? Who's that from?
Me.
Okay, Mike, please.
As you know, HCA's been working on the pump station. They got the plants 99.9% done. There's a few edits to that. To move the project any further, you guys are gonna have to decide what you're gonna do with the property. There's a bunch of easements on the property. You're gonna need a little bit more land to do the driveway and the turnaround and the snow storage and for the construction material to be stored on site. So the big question is for you guys, and you have to answer this tonight, believe it or not, because if you don't answer it tonight, it's gonna push off the project some more.
Okay.
So you're kicking can down the road, you're
Yep.
sort of kicking the whole thing down the road.
Yep.
So the choices you gotta make is you're gonna purchase the whole entire property, get rid of all the easements, or add another easements to easements that's already there.
And who do we have an easement from for the property?
The house on the
The
White House and that.
The
It butts the
entire,
property.
the entire sewer pump station is on an easement property, it's not on anything we own.
It's, the building is on the driveway and the building is on what you own, what the soil commission owned.
Okay,
That's it.
so where is the easement property that we're presently using, Mike?
We're using the front of the property where the manhole is, and
Okay,
there's an easement between the building and the brook,
okay,
and it goes all the way around. And we're gonna need the easements to the east side of the property, so we can extend the driveway and have a snow storage.
do you have any recommendations at this point?
I recommend that you get rid of the easements and purchase the property.
And-
Because years back, we had a woman lawyer that represented the town at the time, and she was here for other things. And one of the questions that they had with Steve Crane, Bouchard, who was on the board, that was the easement property and the property, and she recommended at the time also to get rid of easements and purchase the property.
Dave?
It's gonna be there forever and a day.
Since this pumping station will forever be there as a
Yep.
pumping station, I recommend we take a long-term solution and we follow Mike's recommendation. I would support, if it's necessary here, to consult with a private land appraiser and get a price of what that parcel would cost, and we then, with that information, make a approach the landowner.
Make an offer.
I agree.
So we wanna identify, I think, do we have a map of that property?
That's right, we have a survey map.
So I'd like you to get a surveyed map, and you can identify the owned parcels by the sewer commission, and you can identify the easement parcels that we presently have easements for, and the additional easement that you're looking for, and then we can have that licensed appraiser come up with a value for us, and then we can make an offer to the landowner if they're acceptable to an offer. Does that sound like what we want to do?
Soon.
So let's, I would say we can have a motion to move on this unless there's more discussion. Rob?
No, I think we need to get an appraiser out there as soon as we can because they're very busy.
Does
These
anybody
days.
have any recommendations in that direction? Is there anybody local that we could use?
I don't know, but I think Mike
Yeah,
knows
there
somebody.
is.
Okay, Mike, you want to chime in, please?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to note that the plans and specifications for the project were submitted to the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services for review, and they have approved the project. So other than, a couple of minor edits, you're pretty much good to go for bidding and construction.
Okay?
Mike, when do you,
As far as appraisers, there's a couple that we've worked with over the years, and one in particular, it's Fremo Associates, and they tend to specialize in wastewater type facilities, you know, whether it be sewers, force mains, pump stations, and so forth. But we have worked with them quite a bit.
All right, Rob has a question for you, Mike.
Mike, do you have a recommended time frame when this should go out to bid in terms of getting competitive pricing?
I think that'll be a function of the easements.
If it was a perfect world,
Well, the easements and the land purchase, I should say.
right. But in a perfect world, when would you
Oh, in a
recommend?
perfect world, you could, advertise for bids next week. But, like I say, because of the land issue, you can't do that at this point.
Well, my question for you, Mike, would be is what is stopping us from moving forward? Is it because we don't have enough additional easement or because of the present easements?
I don't think the existing easements are an issue, but there's additional easements required, one for extending the driveway, or widening the driveway, I guess, in the turnaround area. And then also extending the driveway for snow plowing and snow removal on the adjacent side. So there's two additional or new easements required, if you will. And those will have to be secured before you can, they would have to be secured before you could do the construction work. Let me put it that way.
But Mike, just speaking plainly, if we move forward with the pump station work and not the driveway expansions, is there a reason why we couldn't move forward with the bidding and have the driveway expansion post easement procurement, or possibly not at all if we don't get the easements, if the people won't give up the land? We're still gonna upgrade the pump station, right?
True, that's true, yeah.
So there's really, other than the two driveway expansions, there's no reason why we can't have those two items as an addendum to a bid to be added or something and still move forward with the bidding process.
You could do that.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I don't want to, but if it's gonna, if the easements are gonna take 4 months, I don't really wanna hold the bidding up until May or June. That means the project doesn't happen until 2022, probably.
Yeah, I understand that, and I concur.
So I think we should do our due diligence to move forward with appraisals and an offer for the land, but I still think we should have the project considered to be put out for bid so that we can get the project at least into somebody's queue. Other commissioners? Dave?
Besides getting an appraisal and using that as a prospective bid, we're also gonna have to bear the expense of a survey for documenting the,
That's already been surveyed by Earl Sanford.
but,
That lot's been surveyed 2 years ago.
but the pins for the new property haven't been put in, right?
Well, that's an additional, we don't have to survey the whole property, I don't imagine, right? We
No.
can,
We surveyed the whole property, the
Right.
town owns, and the easements.
so if we want to add easement areas, we can add them to the existing survey if they're agreed to by the adjacent property owner.
Oh, you're just gonna buy you're buying the property outright anyways.
Right.
So
But if
I get an easement.
if we buy the property, it might be a little bit different in configuration than just simple narrow easements. It might have to be more squared off of some shape, and that might require, putting pins in for a new boundary.
Well, there's prescribed areas on Mike Trank's plan that we're asking to purchase. It may not square the lot, it might just add extensions in different areas to accommodate the functions at the sewer pump station. We're not squaring the lot.
I mean, if you have to put you put boundary pins in after, you put them in after your construction, because doing construction, they get ripped out.
Yeah, I agree. But I understand what you're saying, David, and it's a good point.
I think I'd be more comfortable at least having an initial conversation with the landowner regarding a purchase, and having the appraisal in hand before we let it to bid. You know, it's one thing if we're waiting for paperwork to transpire, but if it's, you know, if it's not a,
Quick.
yeah, if it's not something that's gonna be simple, then maybe we take a different route. At least that way we'll know what we're dealing with.
All right, so if the commissioners will agree on what Rob has just said, I or an additional commissioner and myself could make contact with the landowner directly by an appointment and speak to them and see if they are amenable to this prior to anything being done. If the other commissioners, David and I obviously could stop and play a visit, and Rob, you could be there too if you wanted to. It's just, I know you travel a lot, and Dave and I are sort of in town. So,
Either way,
all right, so Mike, could you get us two things? One, the map that shows where the additional easements are going to be requested?
HCA would have to draw that on the
Well,
map.
I don't know that we wanna start with easements. I think my personal belief.
I think they're gonna wanna see what we're talking about.
Well, no, but that we would pursue a purchase
So which one
of
of
land
those?
rather than easements.
I know we wanna do a purchase, we gotta go talk to the people and say, are you willing to even do this?
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about, David and I doing.
Mike, can you put on the plan, proposed boundary lines? With the new,
Yes.
with the new extension of the driveway?
Yeah.
Just, will they appear as specific areas, Mike, dimensionally, so that we could see how many square feet of additional easement we're asking for the neighbor to sell us, or property to sell us?
Yes, we can show shading.
Yes, yes.
To define the area, and we can put the amount, the square footage.
Could you get a copy of that either to Mike Yurgo or to the office, to Lynn somehow?
Sure.
What do you do, Mike, a PDF to you? And
Yeah,
you can
once
print
it's
one?
PDF it to me, then I can look at it real
Yeah.
quick, and then I'll just
Yeah.
make I'll make a size D after.
I'd be interested in seeing it as well.
Yeah, I'll make,
You can send me a PDF.
And Mike, could you
Signature.
provide Dave and I with the neighbor's name, actual
Yeah.
full name, and their address, and a contact number, if you can get one for us? If not, we'll have to go knock on their door.
do that.
The other commissioners concur with that plan?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Consensus.
Consensus. We don't need a roll call vote. So Mike Trank, we're going to pursue this at what Washington might call warp speed, even though it may not end up being warp speed. We'll do it as quick as we can. We'll get right on it. Once we get that PDF to Mike Yurgo and Mike gets a copy to Dave and I will make time to meet with Dave and go over there and knock on a door.
Okay.
I think that'll move the process right along.
It sounds like a plan.
Now, can we have a budget item for some coffee and donuts to try to make them happy when we get there?
Next agenda item, Chair.
All right, anything else on Elm Street Pump Station, Mike Trank?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
I can put, if you are gonna need, assistance with bidding and construction trade services, I can put a proposal together for you.
Okay? What's the consensus of the commissioners?
It's his plan.
We have to have somebody.
Got no choice.
Sure.
All right, anything else on Elm Street Pump Station from the commissioners or from Mike Trank or DPW staff? Or the select representative? Or Lynn? Okay. Thank you, Mike.
My pleasure.
Hang on,
go too far.
accessibility fee is the next item on our agenda. And I guess Rob's gonna lead with that.
That's the painful one.
So Mike Yurgo, Mike Trank, and myself had a Teams meeting there 2 days ago to discuss this draft. It appears that the copy that's in front of us was the one that I annotated in Adobe. And Mike, I sent you those comments.
Yes.
Essentially, the comments boil down to making sure we clarify that the accessory dwelling, which is the only deviation in residential accessibility fees is explicitly annotated as an attached accessory dwelling throughout the document. We want that definition of attached accessory dwelling in terms of square footage to match whatever the current zoning code is, so that we don't have to amend this every single time something changes. The statistics for existing wastewater flows that were the genesis for the final calculations are through 2018. At this point, we should just update it through 2020 and plan on updating this every 3 to 5 years from there. Couple of minor corrections to on the examples. For 1-bedrooms or studios, they're considered one treatment unit.
One clarification on that. The point of that table was just to show typical wastewater flow values from those different types of development, really independent of treatment units.
Right, but that misleads people because whether it's a 1-bedroom, 2, 3, or 4-bedroom, under the accessibility fee, all residential is going to be treated as one treatment unit, equivalent to 450 gallons. So,
Including 4 bedrooms?
according
thank
to our
Fine.
historical standards, yes. So either that gets removed, or it should be 450.
Yeah, because people are gonna look at the chart before they read it.
100%.
Okay.
And then non-residential follows DES, table 1008. So, and then with that, Mike, I think all the tables just need to be updated through 2020, make sure the numbers don't change. And then the last piece that we were talking about had to do with the outdoor restaurant seating, which is something that was recently added. One of the things that we were talking about is what's that duration likely to be for outdoor seating, and how does that affect the accessibility fee? One of the suggestions of the three of us on the call was that the outdoor restaurant seating be prorated for 6 months, figuring that, we have people here for the pumpkin regatta, people are sitting outside as late as the beginning of November, and conceivably, in May.
Does anybody think 6 months is too long?
I do.
I do too.
Okay,
I think 3 to 4 is going to be a more average for outdoor seating, because, I know you could have a year where it's warm right into November, but you could also have snow on October 15th, and that shuts it right off, so I think we should look at 3 to 4 months in that range, maybe pick a number 4, if anyone else would like to offer an opinion.
How
That's
about
my-
5?
5's too much, I think, Mike.
Too much.
well, in truth, the document just talks about prorating, it doesn't say what that prorating has to be. The only caveat to that is that we want to be consistent, so that,
Correct, yeah.
People coming at different times in the evolution of this document aren't paying differently.
I'd rather err on the side of not collecting enough than over-collecting in a season where they only had 3 months
I
or
was
2
going to
months.
say the same thing, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dave.
The risk should be on the commission, and we should, I'd be happy with 3. I'd be a little bit hesitant on 4, but
4 seems fair. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this. 4 seems fair to me because we've got, you've got June and September has historically, but I no longer think September is the variable that it once was. So I think from a variability perspective, I think that the risk is still on the sewer commission if you go with
we
4.
got Mr. Economic Development over here.
That's me.
So
But
let
4
me,
seems
June,
fair.
July, August, September. Yeah,
so let me ask the question about the prorated. So if the accessibility fee, we'll pick a number, was $10,000, and we were going to prorate it for 4 months, it would be an additional $4,000 on the accessibility fee? Is that how the system is going to work, Rob?
It's going to be based on the additional outdoor seating,
Right.
right? So, and this is
It
another,
would be based on the estimated flow from the additional seating, the number of seats, but it's also based on the time frame as well.
So we're going to count chairs like we have in the past, and then it'll be based on a chair count
And an employee count
and employee count.
For a restaurant,
for
so,
restaurants.
Yeah, and then if you use, 3 months, then you're gonna multiply that by 0.25.
so, for example, on page 11, it shows, restaurant outdoor seating. And Mike, I'm not sure what you did there. Probably put my glasses on.
Times 0.5.
Right, so that would be 20 seats, 40 gallons per day per seat, and 4 staff, 20 gallons per day per employee. So, under the half year before 40, so presumably that would be 880,
That 0.5 is based on an assumption of 6 months.
correct. So,
So like I say, if you use 3 months, then that 0.5 would be 0.25.
so those 20 seats, under the 6 months example, ends up costing you basically 1 treatment unit.
Well, as long as it's fair across the
Once.
board, like you said.
Right. It's not reoccurring.
So I'd like to make a motion, if need be, or a recommendation, we make that 4 months, which would be .33.
Can I say something before you
Go
go
ahead,
any
Mike.
further? How's it gonna affect the billing? Because everything's billed in 0.5s for commercial.
I guess we're gonna have to take in whatever their total amount is and just do a mathematical calculation and send them a bill.
That's why we ended up with the 6 months, is it matches the billing.
6 months is too much. I think it's
I just said
unfair.
that.
Right.
Right.
So, but you're gonna have to deal with the billing issue of it.
Well, that's Lynn's job. She'll handle it.
Yeah, I have to figure out how to do that. That's not gonna be easy.
Hopefully Danielle can help. She's good with
Yeah,
that stuff.
but the system's not gonna, it's not,
Well-
yeah.
So see, if we were to say 6 months, I feel that we would forever get pushback by customers saying, well, hey, I'm only planning to do 5 months.
And can I get a rebate?
Yes.
And can I get a
and
rebate?
If we,
Sure,
if we
yeah.
said something more general, either as 4 or 3, then when they open and when they close, there's so much variability, they're
Well-
always gonna have 3 or 4.
We don't have a lot of them.
I think that an easier way to handle it is, rather than focusing on the term of the outdoor seating, is just to say outdoor seating will be assessed at half of the table value. Period, end of discussion. I mean, how many places are gonna be able to add 20 outdoor seats?
Easy. A lot of
If
them.
you go to North, if you go to North Garden and you put a deck, you can put 100 seats.
Okay, fair enough.
I think it all has to be on the formula you got, where it's all done by the seat, because if someone puts 2 bistro tables out front, they shouldn't be charged the same as someone who has 5 tables.
And it's all the seat, but the rest of the document talks about rounding to the nearest half treatment unit.
Well,
So-
this part won't then.
But it ties to billing, that's the catch.
That's the.
And the billing, it rounds in halves.
Billing, yeah, rounds it off.
Well, I can't vote for a 6-month charge because it's a billing issue. That's my point of view.
Agreed.
I don't know who else wants to offer a
I
point of
mean,
view.
could you give them a break and just charge them the accessibility fee and not charge them the extra user fee?
You can't do that because now you're contradicting every restaurant there is. Just a restaurant inside go say, hey, you're not charging
Well,
me,
let's-
charging them a fee, why charge me?
Let's take one more step back. We're not talking about doing this prorated for anybody in town. We're talking about doing this for new applicants, or are we gonna prorate this and start charging for everybody have Corey ride around town and say, okay, we got all these people having outdoor seating, now we gotta start billing them for it? What are we doing with this?
They'll have to get billed for outdoor seating. Who's ever got it now is not included in the billing cycle today.
So it's not gonna be a grandfather clause. It's gonna be, this is a new charge that will be incurred on a date certain that we're gonna set.
Maybe the user fees, you can't do that with the accessibility.
No, we can't do it with
fee
the
at this point.
accessibility
No,
fee. We can't back
accessibility
charge
is
them
lost and
accessibility.
gone.
We can do it with the user fees, and I think they
What's
should
that?
pay user fees myself.
That's what I said, the user fees, you can do that. Accessibility fees, that's lost.
No.
for existing people, but if someone's coming out to expand and adding a
Well-
deck with 100 seats in
Then
North
they're paying
Garden.
both.
It's a one-time,
Right,
right? So that's,
Right.
that's
And
it's a
that's
one-time
fine.
fee.
Be an additional accessibility fee.
Fine.
Dave,
I got a new question. Finish your conversation.
I'm good, go ahead.
Help me understand why you introduced a question about billing on the usage fee.
Rob wants to answer that.
one of the issues that took us so long to revise this whole thing was the fact that we were gonna do everything in gallons. But then what you do is you have people paying accessibility fees under one unit of measure and people paying user fees under another, and the commission talked about it and said, we want to keep these the same, we want to keep things consistent. So if you're paying, X number of treatment units for accessibility fees, then you should be paying the same number of units in billing user fees.
So
All right.
this table 8 is based on gallons, not treatment units.
Because the table from subsurface, the EMV WS 1008, is for generating in gallons, and then we divide by 450. So it's the aggregate of all the different uses in gallons divided by 450 equals treatment units.
Okay, so what if we write it into our sewer use ordinance, or the accessibility fee, the document you're talking about, that we will use the half treatment unit program that you recommend, but the language will say they will be billed 50% of a half a unit, which will give them a 3-month window. It'll be 0.25 then. So if you use your formulas and you come up with the use charge for the restaurant is $400 this month, if in our ordinance says we will bill 50% of the use ordinance at $200, then we're billing them for 0.25 or 3 months a year. It's, all you're doing is breaking it down verbally and saying this is what we're gonna charge you for. Then you can still use your formulas and come up with a number, but only bill half the amount if you're gonna do it for a 3-month period. I'd be happy with 3 months.
I'd be happy with 3 months too.
But it's not a half, it's a quarter.
It's a,
3 months is a quarter.
yeah, but you're billing every 6 months, so it's a half a bill.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it's a half per billing cycle.
Half per billing cycle.
That's a billing question.
I would have to go back and ask Danielle, I'm not sure exactly how the system works.
I
You could
agree.
write it into the document that you will be billed half of what the use charge is calculated to.
I just don't, I have to see how we would bill it, is my question. Put
You
that in and I'll
you tell me the
double check.
software doesn't recognize anything except halves?
This system is,
All right, well, let's let Lynn
I will check.
find out for us before we make a decision on it then. Because if that's gonna be a big holdup with this, it seems seems to be something we could be overcome. To me.
Okay, so now I understand. The billing system uses whole units
Can use
of
a
a
half.
number, a treatment unit, or it will allow half of a treatment unit. It
Correct.
can't do other percentages.
We round it off to the nearest
So-
half.
Then charge them a half a unit in the one billing cycle. And then don't charge them anything on the other half of the billing cycle. You can get there.
Yeah, you can get there, or we can reinvent the billing system, right? Mr.
No, I don't want to
Selectman?
reinvent the billing system, but
I am sure Danielle, when she
what we
hears
could
that
do
concept, she
is,
can
what
make
do
it
the
happen.
bills go, Lynn? What month to what month?
It's January 1st through June 30th, July 1st through December 30th.
So the July 1st to December 31st bill could represent the 50% charge for the summer use, half a unit, because you're not going to bill them in the other part because they're not using it during the other part. So it's definitely workable.
So then the charge would occur in the month.
One of the
you-
billing cycles, instead of both of them.
When you have the outdoor seating,
Absolutely.
which would be when you're generating the revenue from the outdoor seating.
My turn to make
It is.
comments now?
Please.
Okay. Let's see. Mike Trank, page 6, the first paragraph and the last paragraph, you make mention of the fact that the town purchased 2 million gallons capacity at Manchester. One paragraph says you did that, or we did it, 1988. The other paragraph says 1998.
Just a typo, obviously.
So which year was it?
Yeah.
Both, 1988 was the original MIA agreement.
What's the current one we're operating under?
Your current capacity is 2.13
Yeah.
million gallons per day.
Because they.
No, what year was it signed? 88 or 98?
Was after the 90s. Was in the 90s.
Yeah, I think it was, the original goes back quite a ways, but then it was modified, and I believe that was 1998.
So 1998 is the number we want to leave in and strike the 88 and make that a 98 on the first paragraph?
Yes, I think so.
Yes. There you go. So otherwise, you'd have to explain the discrepancy.
Just,
You're the only guy that probably would have found it, though.
You only want to care.
Okay, I'm done with corrections, but now I have a policy question, Mr. Chair.
Please, go right ahead, Dave, we're all ears.
Table 8 on page 11. All of this document comes down to that table, right? Connection fee?
actually, the,
Not a connection, it's flow.
It does say connection
It
fee.
says connection fee.
Should be flow fee, it's not a connection.
accessibility is what it should say.
So did I just discover another error that I didn't know?
Thought you said you were done with it.
No.
This should be all.
No, so really, the whole table comes down to, or the whole report comes down to table 7.
Table
So-
7?
Well-
I guess it might be helpful if I maybe give a little background. The reason that this whole evaluation came about was previously there wasn't, anything really documenting the costs behind the accessibility fee per se. So this was done to determine if the charge that's being assessed for the accessibility fees made sense. So we looked at it, on the basis of a per gallon cost, which is where you have to start. And then, that obviously can be applied to treatment unit based on how you define a treatment unit. But the whole point of this exercise was to figure out what the per gallon cost would be to see if the accessibility fees that you have in place make sense.
So currently, a treatment unit is $5,000. According to
Right.
table 7, we come out to $11.55 a gallon, which for one
Right.
treatment unit of 450 gallons per day is $5,197.50.
Correct.
And table 8 extrapolates that to different situations
Correct.
based on the,
Right. Based on a per gallon cost. So
Okay.
I need to clarify that.
okay. So this is providing us the engineering rationale for why something closer to 5,200 is more appropriate than just a wild stab at some nice round number, 5,000, right?
Right, and
From a policy point of view, obviously, you can establish the accessibility fee at pretty much whatever you want it to be. I mean, you could make it less than the 5,000 or whatever
But
you
this,
wanted to do with it.
but this document gives us the rationale for picking a price.
right.
Correct.
I would recommend, here's where I'm getting, all boiled down to the policy. I would like, when we accept this analysis, but when we implement it, we then take whatever these dollars and cents are, and we try to round them off to something more even, and we don't get silly talking about cents. at the cents level, maybe not even the dollar level or the $10 level,
Yeah,
but we
I-
do some rounding off.
I mean, these were meant to be examples
This,
of different things,
yes,
right? So, and quite frankly, we should probably just change the residential to be 1, 2, or 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 bedroom residents, 5,000. And I'm fine with rounding, and, there was discussion within the commission previously about whether or not we wanted to exercise the right to charge accessibility fees of whatever the number we derived was. We're justified in charging up to that. That's probably something for another discussion.
well, we can always err, like the chair just said, err on the side of rounding down to something, the nearest 100 or nearest $10 or whatever, rounding down to the third digit.
Right.
Because all this table takes a lot of assumptions and comes up with a mathematical answer, and you're putting too much precision when you say, oh, we want to have a connection fee down to 75 cents rather than something rounded up.
Rounding the connection's fine, but you wouldn't want to round the gallons up to $12 per gallon, times 450, then, you're inflating that number. What the table really shows you is the
I'm not
vast,
rounding gallons, I'm talking about the fee, the calculated fee.
yeah,
Rounding that off at we make a decision to take this mathematical table, but we implement it with more understandable numbers or more acceptable.
I'm completely fine with that. Basically what table 7 shows you is that the vast majority of the total cost for new connections comes based on replacing our existing collection system. That's $8.22 out of the $11.55 goes back to that infrastructure. And it was built at the time with extra capacity, and that's the genesis for the accessibility fee.
So Rob, you were just talking about Table 8 a moment ago, and you said examples of estimated accessibility fees. Do you think the word examples of estimated accessibility fees should be at the head of that chart there, instead of someone looking in that chart and saying, well, here, you said this is what your estimated fee is going to be? I don't know if, because that chart is not meant to give anybody something they can hang their hat on. It's just examples of what accessibility fees could be based on these parameters.
I mean, that's basic, what that is applying the table
Okay,
to the current dollar value. So I would say it's an example of accessibility fees, and if we want to make a decision, and have it included in this report that says, accessibility fees will be rounded to the nearest dollar,
No,
$10, or,
That is a policy decision, it's not an engineering solution.
sure.
but does that,
That's gonna happen anyway, because you assess the accessibility fee on the basis of treatment units. So all of the gallonage gets converted to treatment units, and those are either whole or half units.
good,
So you're gonna get a rounded number anyway, assuming that, you use a very rounded number for your accessibility fee charged per treatment unit. Like the current charge is $5,000 per treatment unit. So you get your rounding off right there inherently.
Well, then actually, then we should just revise this table, because then it's not correct, right?
no, what that is doing is that's,
It's based strictly on gallons, so it's a little bit different. It's just to be examples, that's all.
I would change the word different to confusing.
it sounds to me like this chart is meant to show someone how we arrived at a number of 5,000 gallons, and we could technically charge $5,197.50, but we have the basis to justify our system of charging for accessibility fees, and I think it should be just left alone myself, instead of changing it again.
That's pretty much the bottom line, yeah.
It's an internal thing.
Right, but right here, the 350 gallons per day for the daycare center that we have shown would actually be one treatment unit at $5,197.50 or 5,200, however we decide to round that. Right, that 350 would not be charged that
The 4,000,
4,000 because it'd be rounded to the nearest half treatment unit.
which means it'll be a $5,000 accessibility fee?
Correct.
So
That- So that misleads right there.
this
Well,
chart,
That's what I'm
chart
saying.
8 either has to get thrown out or,
Right.
How about we just eliminate the chart?
And it's possible that my highlight note there said something to that effect, but I don't know.
Yeah. Can you read the little note?
Well, what's the commission's, let's say, take a opinion here. Does anybody think we should eliminate table 8?
I think it should be correct.
I'd say somehow correct it or add more columns as to how
Right.
the numbers get translated back to treatment units.
I think it should say connection type, estimated flow, treatment units, accessibility fee.
All right, why don't you send that to Mike Trank and let you and Mike work on it, because you, and Dave, you can chime in on that, because you seem to have a grasp on it. And let you guys work it out and bring it back to us one more time. We can't vote on it tonight, obviously.
I think there's a pretty simple solution to that. We could probably just add a table 9, and that would be based on treatment units.
Or just,
And that would just be clean. So that would clarify where you're actually at. This was only meant to be, this table 8 was only meant to be informational as to what the charge would be based on the cost per gallon. That's all it was meant to be. So it would be easy enough to add another table and say, okay, since you're currently assessing the accessibility fees on the basis of treatment units, this is what the current, or, the accessibility fee would be based on the current system.
But Mike, I'm agreeing with what Rob is saying on the daycare, no.
yeah, the
Yeah, the
daycare.
daycare center for 350 gallons flow at 4,000, we're pretty much telling them that it really only costs us 4,000, but we're gonna arbitrarily charge you 5,000 for it. So I don't think this should be included in this document. We're opening ourselves up to a lawsuit or something.
I think a
problem is-
hybrid of those two things makes sense. Remove table 8, use table 8 as treatment units alone.
And
So
have
that's
table 8 be
accurate for them.
replaced by a treatment unit table.
Got it.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, that'd be better.
Do that.
Because people are gonna read it and go, huh?
Well, how come I'm being charged 5,000 for a 300-person daycare when it says right in your own chart, it's $4,042?
Yep.
So I think we need to eliminate that chart and replace table 8 with a chart that is for treatment units as suggested.
Then the other decision you're gonna have to make is whether you're gonna go with the new treatment, the new price, or keep it at the existing fee.
What, the accessibility fee?
Yeah,
Well, that's
you
the
can
next-
determine real quick, because you got 2 big developments here coming.
What was the new fee suggested to be, Mike?
5,200, or
5,200.
No, I think
Rounded
we
up.
leave it at 5,000.
No, you gotta, you, 5,000 is such a nice round number, it's questionable, how the heck did you derive it? And if we have something more reasonable, 5,200, it's not questionable.
I tend to say that we have a nice fund. We don't need to keep adding fees and raising our fees for arbitrary reasons.
So you're suggesting rounding down, we're justified, in our mind, we're justified 5,200.
Your mind,
No, this chart says we're justified 5,200, but we're gonna round down to 5,000.
we choose to, it justifies at 5,200, but the sewer commission chooses, when we have a vote, to leave it at 5,000 because there's no need to raise it at this time.
But, but the analysis stand, 3 years from now, we're all gonna do it again, and perhaps it'll be 5,400, next one, 5,600, at some point it'll go up.
At some point it'll go up, but we have the opportunity to change that at any time. We can change our accessibility fee 6 months from now if we have a problem. We need more money because we have a major catastrophe, but
Yes, but
we're very solvent.
it's based on a justifiable analysis.
We have the justification to do it, we just choose not to at this time.
Well, and further, this is, the document was set up to be based on the ENR Construction Cost Index, so that when we go to do this 3 years from now, 5 years from now, you pull the new ENR cost index, you look at the old one, you ratio the two, you have justification for the updating of at least the historical infrastructure that's there, not the pump stations and the,
In my opinion, we have enough difficulty with applicants coming in with big projects, being willing to pay $5,000. We had one here try to negotiate with us recently, and we said no. If we're gonna bump it up to $5,200, now applicants that have been in here that don't have their permits yet are going to say, well, it was only $5,000 last time we talked, now it's $5,200. I say, my opinion is, we have a solvent organization, I think we leave it alone for now. We have the opportunity to change it at any time we want. We haven't raised our rates, have we, for user rates? Ever.
They
Long time.
they went up and they dropped them down.
Right, so, and that was a
So,
financial decision.
I'm happy with all that. I think at some point, we have a document that we accept by a
Yes.
motion.
Yes.
And then the very next motion will be one saying, we're gonna stay at 5,000.
We leave things,
That closes
I view it
out.
as two different items, I agree with you, David.
Okay, so, next
so
session.
in terms of the accessibility fee, we are going to ask Rob and Dave to work with Mike to come, to re-identify Table 8 to represent treatment units, as opposed to.
And address the corrections that we
And address the
discussed.
corrections brought forward. And if we get this together, hopefully we can have a vote on this at our next commissioners meeting, if you have all this, because there doesn't seem to be any other stumbling blocks at this point, are there, Rob?
And now you did it.
Create a
You
stumbling
put a
block?
hex.
Well, now you
put a
had to
hex on
mention
it.
it, you know.
Now,
There's no way I'll miss this.
Tell you what, if we have them, we're gonna deal with them, we're not
The
gonna,
thing is that people are questioning now what the accessibility fees are gonna be.
well, somebody went and told the, people in town here that they were going down because of the whole thing with the half a treatment unit for accessory dwellings. And they thought across the board they were gonna be going down. Well, that wasn't the fact, so misinformation spreads like wildfire.
Anything else on the agenda, Mr.
Yes,
Chair?
there is. Plenty of stuff on the agenda. It's right in front of you. Okay. Old business, sewer contract work. Mike Yurgo sent me a cut sheet on our cost. Mike, you have that with you, so you can tell the other folks what's going on? Dave, Corey, can you share with Dave, and I'll let Rob look at mine? So Mike and Corey
Over your shoulder.
put together a report on our footages and expenditures for the emergency VACON cleaning, and I think I'll let Corey run the meeting here right now for a change. Corey, why don't you give us a report?
Well, we had Belmore come in, and they were able to, basically in 15 days, clean 33,240 linear feet, which,
May I interrupt your second?
Sure.
Mike, what was your prior goal for a one-third, each time 45,000?
It was around 40,000, so
Okay.
we missed it by 4,000.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Corey.
which ended up taking
I
only
have that, I got that on my computer.
15 days to accomplish at a total cost of $26,347.75.
And just to review for commission, Lynn, do you remember what the appropriation was for total VACON and flagging and,
We set up to 25,000, didn't we?
30,000.
30,000?
Yeah.
It was 30,000.
But then the flaggers were on top of that, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
We had a separate thing for flaggers.
It was
another
30,000 for Billmore plus flagging.
another 15,000 I thought it was for flagging or something to
Around
that
that
effect.
number.
Yeah.
So we were budgeting for 45,000. And what was our total expenditure? Corey? 26. So we got a lot for our money. Okay.
Should let Dave announce those so they're rounded
Is
appropriately.
this more economical than owning half a vacuum truck?
We're gonna get to that, so let Corey finish his report.
Uh,
Now, you have reporting to do on that, Corey, yet? For the discharge, for what you dumped and all that? You have, Mike, don't you have some reporting to do?
Yeah, what he did is we used a tablet and he did the survey work for the report. Downloaded the tablet, then when it comes time for CMOM report, I compile all that data,
Okay,
put it in CMON report, which is due March 31st.
okay. So I'm sorry, Corey, for interrupting. I just want to make sure we got points all covered.
No, I'm pretty sure
Does
that's kind of.
does the 4 rows indicate 4 billing cycles?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
So, on a budget of 26,000 and change, we cleaned almost the full amount of sewer line. Now, we are still a 25% share in the VACCON, and we only did this for the public's information because the VACCON was completely out of service and we did not want to miss a full year of sewer cleaning. So we as commission, we appropriated the money to do it. Now, the big question is going to be, with commissioners talking to DPW leaders, are we going to get this thing fixed, or what are we doing with our VACCON? And that is a winter discussion with the commissioners and with DPW to find out what the future of the town's VACCON is.
What do we usually budget for this cleaning?
We don't budget at all. It's part of our,
It's part of the line item?
25% of the truck, and plus you pay for
We
the
pay
employees.
DPW, right?
For the employees.
so we would have to somehow request Lynn to see if it was even possible to go back 1 or 2 calendar years and see what our billing was from DPW for their employees, as well as our own personnel, as well as our fair share on the VACCON for that season, and come up with some sort of an annual expenditure to see which direction this commission wants to go.
But our personnel's gonna be a wash, right? Because
Well, for Corey it is.
Corey was out there, so presumably you wouldn't.
Right, so we would have to get DPW additional personnel plus our fair share on the VACCON.
Now what about flagging? Is that usually done by DPW?
They don't ever have a flagger on
It's
that
usually
truck.
non-existent from what I've
It's
seen,
not. they don't
which is
have anybody.
unsafe in my book as
They
a,
don't have
They
anybody.
put a big light bar in the back and hope for the best.
I think that's unsafe.
So,
Wow.
So the DPW personnel plus what we get charged on that monthly.
Right, so if you can find in your prior year's expenses of what our VACCON charges were and what the charges were for additional DPW employees to go out and operate the VACCON on our behalf. 'Cause we paid for their time, health and welfare, retirement, we pay the whole package for that when we have them on our payroll.
I mean, more than 20% of our total cost was for flaggers, which is a service that's not typically provided.
No, but it's necessary,
Explicitly.
unfortunately.
Are there certain years you want me to look at?
I would just
don't
tr-
wanna look at the last couple.
See if
I
you-
would look way back a little bit,
Just two
For-
years. Keep it
because
simple.
there's a year or two that we missed. 'Cause of
Well, I'll tell you
Mace-
what, Mike, could you advise Lynn, after you look at your book, and see what you think would be good years for her to look at? If you
Yeah,
Well, I think-
See my report and see.
Sorry, one thing that's important in going back and looking at it is to see what was accomplished, if we met our goal,
Yeah.
versus if you only got half the TVing done or half the cleaning done, then it's not representative. So you kind of need to have apples and apples, or at least be able to get a cost per foot.
Mike, did you typically get 30%, 33% of the system done every year? Or were there years?
Years that we didn't get as much as other years.
Okay, so there's been a
Variable.
kind of a sliding scale for,
Yeah, it's very
productivity.
yeah.
So I'd say if you got 2 years at cost per foot and was able to,
does your past CMOM reports list the linear footage of lines that were cleaned?
But, I don't remember if it does or not, but
But if there's a way for you to-
That true?
The spreadsheet does,
Number is
but
4,000
I don't put the
short of
spreadsheet, I
1/3
convert everything to one
Yes.
big master
Yep.
spreadsheet.
Do you save your
That's the
spreadsheets on your computer?
actual-
Yeah.
So
Everyone's on my
If you don't mind having a look and see if you can find something that was equivalent to this year at,
33,000
yeah,
feet.
33,000 feet, for that matter.
Yeah.
Just so we can get a baseline.
Yeah.
Because in our workshop with DPW, the DPW director said to me directly, if you guys want to get out of the VACCON, it's okay with us. So we have a decision to make as a commission, how we want to proceed. Do we want to continue to invest in the VACCON, or do we want to become, but we had an incident with a clogged line this past week, and that needs to be ironed out with Belmore, because when Corey called Belmore for emergency service, they claimed they had no one available to send out.
well, that's
And
an issue.
then, between Mike and Corey, I don't know who made the call, you both get credit for it, they called Felix, which is Eastern Pipe Service, and Felix came out and took care of it. Now, I don't want to throw Ray under the bus without having a chat with him, because I haven't spoken to Ray directly yet. But I think it needs to be discussed with Ray as to the goals of the commission and what Ray is willing to or not willing to provide to us.
Because when we had the meeting with Ray, when we went over, well, the three of us there, and I asked him that he's gonna provide 24-hour emergency service 7 days a week.
That's when he took us out in the garage to show us his
Yes.
trucks that are sitting in the
I will-
garage.
Exactly.
I will do that for you.
So I will call Ray directly, because I was at that meeting myself, and not being a public employee, I don't have any worry about retribution. I'll just tell him what the story is.
And just so you're aware that our vac on now is back at McDivitt's.
Still
And
broken.
Still broken. The bill as of yesterday was $7,500. Total bill, not dividing anybody's share up. And they're still throwing more parts at it, trying to figure out what's wrong with it.
It's like throwing good money down a well. All right, so this was a report on the VACCON work that was done with Mike and Corey, and we thank you both for it. We bought the signs, in case everybody else know, we bought a sign package. Corey diligently put the sign package out. I don't want to see anybody getting run over because we didn't have a sign package. When I worked for Ware, one of my employees got run over by a person and spent 4 months in the hospital.
Not good.
Flipped right over the hood and right over the back deck.
Wow.
So, that's that. Okay, anything else on sewer subcontract work at this time?
Just, one thing I wanted to add to that is, if it wasn't for the weather turning so cold, we would have done this no problem.
Okay.
We kept having issues with the truck freezing up because of the weather. which
Well, we
chewed
got
up
a
lot
late
of
start
time.
on it, unfortunately. I'd like to have discussions with the commissioners and with DPW and come up with a final plan in the next 30 days, if the commissioners can find the time to meet with Adam and myself. I sent these numbers to Adam. He has them in hand, so he knows what we got done.
So just, so I understand, didn't we have an issue where DPW didn't have bandwidth to get some of this done? Or was that
What's bandwidth?
people to do
Didn't have
the cleaning?
employees.
Well,
Right,
that started out as the springs, because of the COVID-19 shutdown, they
Okay,
didn't
all right,
do
so
much.
that's not
And then the
typical.
truck only would start on ether, which is ridiculous. If there's something wrong with the truck, it won't start on anything but ether. That truck is broken. So, long-term, we need to have a discussion with DPW commissioners and come up with a moving forward plan.
but that was a one-off situation.
Well,
because
if
of
this truck,
COVID and- I know the truck and the mechanics of the truck is one thing, but to get the job done, you need the truck and the workers, right, and the traffic control.
we need to have Mike run the numbers, help us run the numbers, so we can find out if it costs us $40,000 to do the same thing using DPW employees and paying our fair share on the truck annually, then we need to look at a cost-saving measure. We'd be foolish not to. As long as we can get, what's going on with the phone? Where's that Lynn?
Not me, he's not muted, he might be doing something.
All right. Okay. Any other business for the commission from Dave or Rob? Mike or Corey?
Good.
Lynn or Chet?
Nope.
Okay, we are going to go into non-public session here.
I need someone to make a motion, and I need someone to second the motion.
I'll make that motion, but I want everyone to know what we're doing before we do it, which will, I will ask that,
Oh. I'll make one motion.
I will ask that Corey stay for the non-public, and Mike, you will not stay for the non-public.
Okay.
Chet, as a selectman, are you authorized to stay as non-public?
I am.
Okay, so then Chet will stay. Now, how about Lynn? Does Lynn stay to take the minutes? Yes?
Yes?
Okay,
As the town employee, yeah.
Yes, you have to.
okay, so should we keep the meeting open, and then when we come out of non-public, have the TV turned off? Is that the procedure?
Chet and I know how to do
We
it.
do it.
Just making sure we follow procedure. Okay, so I'll ask David to make a motion, please. It's written.
Yes, make a motion that we go into non-public session under RSA 91-A:3, Roman 2, parentheses A, the personnel matter.
I will second the motion.
Motion's been made by Dave to go into non-public session, personnel, seconded by Rob. Roll call vote. Dave?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Tim votes yes. We are going to enter non-public. So could someone,
At the end of our non-public session, we will not have any further
business?
public business, and we will then adjourn.
But,
Prior to entering,
but we'll have the TV turned back on so we can adjourn on TV or not adjourn?
We don't have to.
We can adjourn now.
Okay, so we can adjourn now.
prior to going into non-public, we should close the public comment
Thank
that
you.
you left open.
All right, I am closing the public comment that I left open. Thank you for that procedural note, Rob. Okay, so the meeting will be adjourned directly after the non-public because we do not have any other business to discuss that the public should be privy to. So I'll ask the TV be turned off at this time. Thank you.